It was Monday morning. I came down early, still a little foggy from sleep, and found Erica standing in the kitchen, barefoot like it was some kind of special occasion. She had a wine glass in one hand, and she was staring at her phone with that soft, smug smile, the one she always wore when she was waiting for a present. It was 7:10 a.m., and it wasn't like she hadn't noticed me walk in. She didn't look surprised, didn't even say good morning. She just took another sip from her glass and said, "Oh, you're still here." That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement that we'd been falling apart for months. Just that. And I already knew what that meant. Then, as if she hadn't already thrown enough of a punch, I saw it. The bruise near her collarbone. Obvious. Dark purple. Not some careless accident. My stomach twisted. She caught me looking at it, but she didn't flinch. Just shrugged and said, "I just felt like dressing up today." Her voice had that lazy edge to it, like she didn't care if I noticed or not. I didn't say anything. I just asked, casual like, "Early shift?" "Nah," she said, barely glancing up from her phone. "Just doing me." I could feel the quiet rage building up, but I swallowed it. "You know, you're gonna get caught eventually." She didn't even blink. "I think we should stop pretending this marriage works," she said, voice flat. "I found someone who actually sees me." For a second, I couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. The words landed like stones, heavy and final. But I didn't show it. Not yet. "Who?" I asked like I wasn't already guessing. She shrugged, still looking at her phone. "His name's Wes." And just like that, I knew. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her, waiting for more. I wasn't angry. I didn't ask for details. Didn't beg her to reconsider. I just nodded, trying to stay calm. "Wes?" she repeated, like she was explaining it to a child. She didn't even blink. No apology. No emotion. Just an offhand confession. I took a slow breath. "How long?" She shrugged again. "A couple months. Maybe more. I don't keep track." I let it hang in the air for a second. "What's he like?" She gave a small smile, but there was nothing behind it. "He's different." I wasn't sure if she meant that in a good way, but I didn't press. Didn't want to hear more, anyway. "You've been lying to me the whole time," I said, the words coming out quieter than I meant them to. She didn't look guilty, just indifferent. "I'm sorry, but you're dead weight. You don't see me." "He does." I felt a pinch in my chest, but I stayed still. No anger, no tears. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. "You sure this is what you want?" She met my eyes for the first time. "Yeah." I didn't fight it. I didn't ask if she loved me anymore or beg her to stay. I just turned and walked out. I parked 2 blocks away, just like I always did when I needed space to think. I needed to watch, not act on impulse. Around 9:30 a.m. I saw him. Wes. He pulled up in an old Subaru and stepped out with 2 coffees in his hands. He walked toward the garage, punching in the code like he'd done it 100 times. I felt something cold settle in my gut. He wasn't a guest. He wasn't new. He was comfortable. He'd been here before. I stayed where I was watching them. He walked in like it was his place. She'd given him the code, the key to everything. I could picture her smiling at him the way she used to smile at me when we were new, when everything was still fresh. I took a last look at the house, then pulled out and drove straight to the bank. I needed proof. I wasn't going to just let this slide. The teller didn't even look at me when I asked for 6 months of joint account activity. I knew what I'd find. Maybe not all of it, but enough to start. I sat there, scrolling through every transaction. Hotels, dinners, flights. Fancy ones. Ones I couldn't remember her ever mentioning. There were charges from places she'd never taken me. A boutique in Asheville. A spa. And a few trips labeled as conferences that were never actually conferences. I saw enough. A lot more than I wanted to. Wes wasn't just a side thing. She was treating him better than she ever treated me. My mind started to piece it together. The little lies, the quiet dismissals, the times she'd disappear for work. It was all there. The timeline was clear now. I saved the records to my phone and made a mental note to dig deeper when I could. But for now, I had to stay calm. No reaction. No drama. Not yet. I drove over to my cousin Brent's place right after the bank. He ran a garage operation on the outskirts of town. His office was in a cluttered corner, half construction site, half storage unit. Perfect for what I needed. Brent didn't ask questions when I showed up. He just pulled up a chair and sat across from me, already sorting through the files on his desk. "Spill it," he said, taking a drag from a cigarette. I dumped the pile of bank statements in front of him. "I need you to help me figure out where the money's gone." He didn't even flinch when he saw the charges. "Damn," he muttered. "This is serious." We went through every charge line by line. Fancy meals. Ones that couldn't have been for business trips. Hotel bookings, including a couple in Asheville. A spa trip during one of those conferences she'd gone to. There was even a charge for a bracelet from a boutique there. One I'd never seen on her. Brent rubbed his chin. "So, this dude's treating her better than you ever did." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. The truth was right in front of me. I kept sorting through the transactions while Brent kept shaking his head. "This ain't some fling. This is a full-on second life." The cold anger was starting to settle in my chest. This wasn't just betrayal. It was years of lies. She treated him like he was the real thing, something I couldn't have been, I guess. I went quiet, feeling the weight of it all. I needed more. I needed everything. "Listen," I said after a minute, turning to him. "I need to know everything. She's got a cloud, a private one. I need you to pull it." Brent raised an eyebrow but didn't hesitate. "That's a risky move, man." "I don't care," I said, cutting him off. "I need it." Brent shrugged. "All right, I'll make a few calls. But if you get caught, you're on your own." I nodded, grateful, but I wasn't scared. What had she really left me with at this point? A house full of memories and lies? I was past that. As Brent worked his connections, I kept building a timeline. Folder by folder, day by day. I needed to see how deep this went, how long she'd been hiding it. What I had wasn't enough. It was just the beginning. I spent the next few hours piecing together everything I had. Her business trips were adding up, but I wasn't done yet. I wasn't even close. I pulled out my phone and texted Brandon, a buddy from high school who worked in data security. He was the kind of guy who could find anything. Took me a minute to word it right. I needed his help without giving too much away. "Hey man, need a favor. Pull access to Erica's private cloud. Want everything, emails, photos, voice memos, all of it." I hit send, then leaned back, staring at the screen. I felt the anger simmering, but I couldn't let it take over. Not yet. Not until I had all the facts. Brent looked up. "You sure you want to go all the way with this?" "Yeah," I said, the words coming out flat. "I'm sure." He didn't say anything, just nodded and got back to work. Brandon came through quicker than I expected. By the time I got back to my apartment, there was an email in my inbox. Access to Erica's cloud. It was all there. Files, emails, photos, voice memos. Everything. I started scrolling through them, my pulse picking up with each click. The first thing that hit me was the voice memos. She didn't delete any of them. The sweet ones, the dirty ones, the cruel ones. The first few were light, sweet. But soon they shifted. She talked to Wes like I wasn't even there, like I was already gone. One of the messages had her laughing, mocking me. "God, he's so clueless. He won't even notice." My stomach twisted. Another one. "I can't wait until I'm done with him. I'm just counting the days." I could feel my chest tighten with every word. She had been planning this for longer than I thought. I'd been the last to know, but I wasn't stupid. I should have caught on sooner. But it didn't matter now. I had everything I needed. I didn't record anything that night. No big confrontation. No tears. No drama. I just kept collecting, saving files, making sure I didn't miss anything. Every moment of her life that she'd kept hidden. Now mine to know. Later that week, Erica came to me in the kitchen, casual, like she was asking about the weather. "You gonna be gone for the weekend?" she asked, barely glancing up from her phone. I set my coffee down, watching her. "Why?" She shifted, tapping her screen. "Lily's flying in. She wanted to catch up. Lily. My mind froze. Lily hadn't been here in years. In fact, the last time she'd visited, Erica had acted like it was a big inconvenience. Now, suddenly, she was flying in to visit her? The lie was almost insulting. I could see the cracks in her story without even trying. I didn't say anything. I just raised an eyebrow, waiting. Erica looked up, catching my gaze for a second before her eyes flicked away. You'll be gone, right? Sure, I said, my voice flat. I'll be gone. I walked out after that, letting her think whatever she wanted. She hadn't even tried to explain the lie, because she knew I didn't need an explanation. She just wanted me out of the way. I spent the next few days in a blur, gathering evidence, building the case. She thought she had everything figured out, but I was starting to see the cracks. They were getting bigger, and it wasn't long before I had the proof I needed. I met Larry at a small coffee shop on the corner of Main and Fifth. He was an old client, family law attorney, someone I'd helped remodel his carport a few years back. We'd kept in touch since, but I hadn't reached out to him for anything personal. Not until now. Larry was already sitting at a corner booth when I walked in, a cup of black coffee in front of him. He looked up as I sat down, his expression unreadable. "You're serious about this?" he asked, eyeing the packet I slid across the table. I didn't answer right away. I just let him look through the contents. Bank statements, screenshots of hotel bookings, a few pictures, audio files, the voice memos from Erica. He flipped through it methodically, then stopped when he reached the first clip. He put the headphones in and listened to about 15 seconds. The laugh on the other end was unmistakable. Erica's voice, sweet but mocking. The way she'd spoken to Wes like I didn't even exist. He took the headphones out and looked at me. "This could bury her," he said, his tone low. I nodded. That's exactly what I needed. He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "But you sure you want to go through with it? Divorce is messy. You'll get everything you want, but it won't be pretty." "I'm not looking for pretty," I said, my voice tight. "I just want the truth to come out." Larry nodded, rubbing his chin. "All right, I'll handle it. I'll draw up a strategy. But you've got a good case here. She's not getting out of this one." I stood up, feeling the weight of what I was about to do. "Thanks, Larry. I'll be in touch." That night, after everything was settled in my head, I texted Wes. I wasn't sure what I expected, but I needed him to know I was on to him. "Just so you know," I typed, "I'm aware. Good luck." I hit send. He replied almost immediately. "You're too late." I didn't even flinch. I didn't need his confirmation. I already knew. The next day I moved the money. Half of our joint savings. Enough to put me in a position where I wouldn't be left high and dry when the dust settled. I transferred it into a clean business account under a side LLC, legally locked and ready to go. It wasn't illegal, but it was a sure way to protect myself. Then, I set up the anonymous tip to her HR. It wasn't a bomb, just a quiet whisper in the right ear. A hint. I linked her company laptop to suggestive cloud files. Nothing too obvious. No proof. Just smoke. I wasn't trying to burn her life down yet. I just needed her to sweat a little. To feel the pressure, even if she didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't need to do anything else. Not yet. I left Saturday like Erica asked, no questions, no fight. She didn't even look up from her phone when I walked out the door. I wasn't gone long. Checked into a cheap motel 2 towns over, right where I could keep an eye on things. By the time the afternoon hit, I had a clear view of everything I needed. I had the security camera footage from the front hallway of our place. Wes and Erica walked in together around 3 p.m. No hesitation. Like they owned the place. She held the door open for him, just like it was any other Saturday afternoon. They didn't even try to hide it. They were comfortable. Too comfortable. Wine in hand. Laughter soft and easy. I watched them settle in, heard her giggle like she used to when things were good between us. But this time it wasn't for me. It was for him. I stayed in the motel room, pacing, checking the footage again and again. By Sunday night, I had everything I needed. I'd synced the texts, video clips, and screenshots. Everything matched up. They were careless, leaving a trail behind them. Their messages, their plans, their lies, all neatly cross-referenced, like a slow unraveling of everything she had been hiding. Monday morning, I hit send on the HR email. Just a simple one. Subtle. I didn't want to destroy her just yet, but I wasn't going to sit back and do nothing. The email was like a whisper, a nudge in the right direction. It linked her company laptop to cloud files that raised questions. Nothing solid, just enough to make someone look twice. By 8:20 a.m., I had a text from Erica. "Did you do something?" I didn't respond. Let it sit there, unanswered. The silence felt right. She'd been so busy acting like everything was still fine. Now it was my turn to leave her wondering. Later that day, I hired a private investigator. I wasn't done yet. I needed to know everything about Wes. The PI didn't ask why. He just took the job. A couple of days later, I got a call. Wes wasn't just some guy playing at being the new king of the castle. He was married. His wife's name was Danny. The PI gave me her details, address, social media, the works. It was like the final piece of the puzzle falling into place. Wes wasn't just a threat to me. He was playing a game too. I leaned back in the motel chair, the weight of it all settling on me. It wasn't just about Erica anymore. It was about everything. The lies, the betrayal. And now Wes was tangled up in it too. He wasn't going to get away with this. By the end of the week, it was starting to show. Madison's influencer career was cracking. Little things at first, subtle enough that only the right people would notice. Her posts started to slow down. The engagement numbers were dipping. It wasn't a huge drop, but it was enough. I made sure of it. The email I sent to the organizers of her next women's leadership seminar wasn't anything dramatic. Just a quick note about concerns related to her business conduct. Nothing that could be traced back to me, just enough to raise an eyebrow. I didn't want to burn her career yet, but I wasn't going to let her keep pretending everything was fine. Her social presence stalled. Likes and comments slowed to a crawl. The flood of messages she'd grown so used to started turning into a trickle. And when it did show up, it was people asking if she was okay. But she didn't seem to notice at first. Or at least she didn't act like she did. Until her DMs to Wes started getting frantic. I watched her send him message after message. Short, clipped. "Wes, what the hell is going on? I can't fix this. HR suspended me." Then Wes replied, calm as ever, like it was all part of the plan. "Relax. He's not that smart." I could hear the tension in her next message. But there was something else, too. A crack in her voice that wasn't there before. What if he finds out everything? What if he does something else? Wes didn't answer right away, but when he did, his tone was clipped. "You're stressing for nothing. Deny everything. You're fine." I sat back, watching it all unfold. She was unraveling, piece by piece, and it was only a matter of time before she cracked entirely. But I wasn't done yet. I still had one more piece to play. I drafted the letter to Danny, Wes's wife. The one that would tie everything together. I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't hold back. I knew Danny had a right to know everything. I kept it brief, direct. "I'm sure you're not aware of your husband's recent activities with my wife. I thought you should be." I slipped it into an envelope with no return address and drove over to their neighborhood. I wasn't worried about being seen. It was a quiet street. Their house was nice, tucked away in the suburbs, far from the noise of my own life. I parked across the street and waited until the coast was clear. I placed the letter under her flower pot on the front porch. Then I walked back to my car and drove off without a second thought. I knew it wouldn't be long before Danny read it. And when she did, Wes would have to deal with the same thing I was dealing with. Only, he wouldn't be able to hide behind Erica's lies anymore. I got the call from Danny late in the afternoon. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. The moment I picked up, her voice was calm, but there was something else under it. Something broken. "He said you were abusive," she said, her words sharp, but carefully controlled. It was the kind of accusation that should have hit me harder. But it didn't. It was a lie just like everything else. She was just another woman caught in Wes's web. I'm not abusive, I said, my voice low but steady. I've got the footage if you want to see it. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. Send it to me. I didn't hesitate. I pulled up the clips of Erica and Wes, all of it, the mocking texts, the moments of cruelty, her dismissal of me. I sent them over, not a word more than necessary. A few minutes later, Danny replied. I'm going to break him, she said. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I wasn't in the business of fixing things for anyone anymore. Danny would handle it in her own way, and I wasn't in a rush to play the hero. That same day, Erica's speaking gig was canceled. I saw the announcement pop up on her phone, and for the first time in weeks, I saw her face fall. She'd been so sure of herself, so confident that she could keep everything together. But the cracks were getting too big to ignore. I kept my distance. I didn't ask if she was okay. Didn't offer a word of comfort. I just watched as she sat down at the kitchen table, scrolling through her emails in disbelief. Wes blocked her that night. He was done with her, and she knew it. I watched her from the window as she paced the driveway for hours. There was nothing left for her here, emotionally or legally. She couldn't go back to pretending, not when everything had been exposed. Not when there was no one left to play the role of her victim. By the time she came inside, I had already packed the divorce papers. I had everything ready, the final document delivery. I didn't need to wait for her to beg for answers or apologize. I wasn't doing this for closure, and I sure as hell wasn't doing it for reconciliation. I put the papers, a flash drive labeled timeline, and a pen on the kitchen counter. I didn't need to explain. I didn't need her to understand everything. She'd already made her choice. All I was doing now was putting the end in writing. She walked in a few minutes later, still wrapped up in whatever last thread of hope she had left. She didn't say anything when she saw the papers, but I knew she understood. "This is it?" she asked quietly, standing at the threshold. I nodded. "Yeah, this is it." She didn't ask for more, didn't ask for a second chance. She just stood there, waiting for something, a lifeline that wasn't coming. I handed her the pen without a word. She signed the papers, her hand shaking just slightly. I didn't watch. I didn't need to see it. When she finished, I stood up, collected everything, and walked out of the room. "Take the house," I said over my shoulder. "I don't want it." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. I was already gone in every way that mattered. Erica agreed to meet. I wasn't surprised. She wasn't stupid. She knew what was coming. We picked a diner off the highway. Neutral ground, no fancy settings, no place to hide behind appearances. It wasn't our usual spot, and that's exactly why I chose it. The silence between us would be the loudest thing there. She was already sitting when I walked in. No makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, like she hadn't bothered to do anything for herself in days. She looked exhausted, worn down. I slid into the booth across from her, waiting for her to speak. But she didn't. She just stared at her coffee, like she was trying to figure out where to start. Finally, after a long pause, she said, "Was any of it real?" Her voice was quiet, almost distant, like she was asking for something she didn't really want to hear. I didn't hesitate. "Not if you had to hide it." Her eyes flicked up, and for a second, I could see something behind them, regret, maybe. But then it was gone, buried under whatever armor she'd built. She slid the signed papers across the table. "You're sure about this?" she asked, almost like she was checking to see if I'd changed my mind. "I'm sure," I said. There wasn't any question in my voice. She nodded, but I could see the weight of it in her face. She had nothing left to fight with. Then, just as I was about to stand, she hesitated. Her hand hovered over the papers for a moment before she looked up at me again. "Can I ask you for one thing?" I leaned back, the warning in my gut flaring up. "What's that?" Her voice dropped, and there was a flash of vulnerability in her eyes, something raw that I hadn't seen in a long time. "Let me keep the house. I need something." I didn't even think about it. "No." Her face tightened. "You're sure?" I didn't respond, just picked up the papers. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. She exhaled, defeated, and said, "You're not a hero. I didn't take the bait." I just met her eyes steady. "Neither are you." There was nothing else to say. No tears. No apologies. She didn't try to convince me, and I didn't try to fix things. We just sat there, the end of it clear to both of us. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked toward the door without looking back. She didn't move. I didn't expect her to. I got into my car and drove off, the engine a quiet hum under the weight of everything that had just happened. There were no final words, no dramatic scenes. Just done. When I walked back into the house, it felt wrong. Empty. Not just because she was gone, but because the house had lost its life. No wine glasses on the counter. No familiar scent of her perfume. Just dust and echoes. Her note was on the kitchen table, handwritten like she thought that would soften it somehow. She said I left first emotionally, like it was all my fault. She said she was starving, and Wes fed her attention. It wasn't even a real apology, just an excuse. I folded the note, feeling a little tired of it all. I didn't need it. I didn't need any of it. I shoved the paper into the drawer where I kept old junk and moved on. That afternoon, I repainted the bedroom. The old color, the one we'd picked out when we first moved in, was already fading in spots. I didn't want to see it anymore. I needed a new coat, something fresh. As I worked, I thought about the photos I hadn't thrown away yet. The ones of us back when everything felt real. When I was still trying. I burned them in the backyard, one by one. The flames took them easily. The past in smoke. By the time I finished, the room was different. Clean, sharp, like the rest of the house felt now. The old wasn't gone, but it wasn't hanging over me anymore. I sat down on the back porch, a beer in hand. I didn't check my phone right away. Didn't care. But after a while, I saw the message from Danny. "It's done," it said. "Wes is exposed. Job in limbo. Family gone." I didn't feel anything. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Nothing. Just a quiet, weightless feeling. I didn't have to be anyone's victim anymore. I took a slow drink from the beer, staring out at the empty yard. The house was still here, but everything that mattered was gone. Finally, there was peace.